What is going on, Pats Nation? It's Patriots Global back here with another video, and in this one, I want to talk about a few different positional battles that we should be keeping an eye on heading into the Patriots training camp, which starts in just a couple of weeks. Now, due to this whole pandemic that is still going around, of course, fans will not be able to be in attendance for Patriots training camp, which is something that nobody is going to be used to in all of the NFL. Fan bases, players, coaches, analysis, everything. But I've definitely seen a big difference this offseason when it comes to the beginning and start of training camp compared to other seasons, and nobody is talking about Patriots training camp. Guys to watch. Guys that need to prove themselves. Positional battles that we need to watch. And the thing is that the media is still going to be let into this, so I'm still expecting to have pictures, videos, news about how players are doing. So despite us not being able to be there, we're still going to get news. So I think that this is still things that we in the NFL as fan bases, we need to continue to talk about this, and that's exactly what I'm going to do with the New England Patriots. Now, the first one here seems to be a battle that just is always happening, especially with the New England Patriots. That's going to be wide receiver, but this is especially important this upcoming season and is going to be a position to just watch in general after the lackluster production that the Patriots got from their wide receivers in 2019. But they have a lot of guys in their wide receiver core, guys that are going to struggle to make the roster and guys that are going to be pushing to make this roster. You have Julian Edelman and N'Keal Harry. They're 100% locks. I personally feel that Jacoby Myers is a pure lock at this point, and I even think that they're going to want to keep around Mohamed Sanu. Also keep in mind the fact that Matthew Slater, he is a complete lock to make the Patriots roster, although he doesn't play wide receiver. That is his position, and that is where he gets added on the depth chart. So that's already four guys. Four guys that, to me, are already, as long as they stay healthy, pretty much locks to make this upcoming roster. Then you have other guys, Marquise Lee, Damiere Byrd, two very good additions by the New England Patriots. Marquise Lee, a veteran aspect. Really the Jags' best wide receiver when he was able to stay healthy, who, if he can stay healthy, will make a great impact for the Patriots. Damiere Byrd, who will give the Patriots an aspect of a return man, punt return, kick return, and will be the speedy receiver that the New England Patriots have essentially really been looking out for. They had Brandon Cooks fill in that role. He didn't last too long. Had Philip Dorsett do the same thing. That was all right. But with Damiere Byrd, they're also getting a faster guy than Brandon Cooks and, of course, Philip Dorsett. And then, of course, you have all of the other wide receivers that are going to be trying to make that push into making the Patriots roster. A guy like Gunnar Olszewski, which showed some promise, a guy that was able to make the Patriots' final roster this past season and is showing some good progression and is, again, looking to make that final roster again this upcoming season. Then you have, of course, the Patriots UDFA signings that a lot of people like these UDFA wide receiver signings that the New England Patriots had. Two big names we're hearing, Sean Riley, Jeff Thomas. Both of those guys aren't going to be able to make the roster. And then, of course, you have a bunch of other camp bodies at that point. You have someone like Devin Ross, Will Hastings, Isaiah Zuber. And then you also have potential additions that the New England Patriots will also add at wide receiver. We're hearing that they could be interested in adding a guy like Terrell Pryor. I think essentially what these matchups are going to come down to is really the big one. Okay, how are they able to build chemistry with the quarterbacks? Now, that's going to be a very interesting aspect because you're going to be hearing me reference the quarterback position soon in this video also. But heading into training camp, the quarterback position, whether you like it or not, is going to be one that is wide open. There is no specific guy that is the starter. There is no guy heading into this where Bill Belichick is saying, okay, we're building the offense around you. It's whoever is able to show up. Whether that's Cam Newton, whether that's Jared Stidham or even if that's Brian Hoyer. So if you're at the wide receiver position and you're trying to make the final roster, and chemistry and building a relationship with these quarterbacks is going to be the biggest thing, understand that you're going to have to do it in a multitude of different ways. Now, in my own personal opinion, I would say try to build that chemistry more so with Cam Newton, only because if I had to make my final guess, I would say that Cam Newton, if he stays healthy, is going to be the quarterback for the New England Patriots this upcoming season. But at the same time, the Patriots could also be looking towards the future. Jared Stidham 100% is in their future, and if a guy is connecting just extremely well, has great chemistry with Jared Stidham, that might also force them to keep that player on the team. The sad truth also comes down for the wide receivers is that you have to stay healthy. It doesn't matter how great you were performing in the beginning of camp or in the middle of camp. If you can't stay healthy, it's going to rain down on you and it's going to backfire, and chances are you're not going to make this roster. For example, the same thing happened to Jordan Matthews a couple of seasons ago. Last year, it happened to Maurice Harris. Maurice Harris was doing well from start almost to finish. It was a couple weeks until the start of the regular season. Right at the end, he got injured, and he ended up getting cut essentially because of that. So that's going to be another aspect that these wide receivers have to keep in mind. Now, guys, real quick, there is no shortage of action going on with our exclusive partners, BetOnline. Guys, sports are slowly making their way back, and of course, with the UFC, NASCAR, and soccer leading that way, BetOnline still has all of the best odds and lines for the upcoming matchups this coming weekend. And of course, if you guys need more, get this, BetOnline has simulated NFL, NBA, and UFC events happening every single day live that you can check out. Now, some of you might be like, Patriots Global, I'm just not into betting on sports, and that's okay, because they also have things other than sports. BetOnline has hundreds of live casino games, poker tournaments, and all of the best props in the business. Guys, I highly recommend that you visit betonline.ag or use your mobile device and join now to receive your new welcome bonus and start playing today. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Now, the next matchup you're going to want to watch is another offensive position. Now, this is going to be the big thing you're hearing throughout the video is going to be about the offense, just because that's where more questions are. That's where a lot of uncertainty is. And this one's going to be the tight end position. Believe it or not, this is going to be a camp battle heading in to the Patriots 2020 offseason, their training camp. There's not expected to be a preseason, but if that is to turn around, then potential preseason. New England is at a point where there is no specific tight end that you think of when you think of a starter tight end for the New England Patriots. No one comes to mind. Last year, essentially, it was split between a Matt LaCosse and a Ben Watson, but Ben Watson is gone now. Right now, you're looking at a Matt LaCosse, a Devin Asiasi, a Dalton Keene, a Ryan Izzo. But of course, you also have some UDFA additions to there also. Rashad Berry, Jake Burt. And because of how depleted that the tight end position was this past year, it is just completely wide open. I mean, even if Rashad Berry or Jake Burt was able to make their names heard and were showing good progression throughout the progression of training camp, they could make the Patriots' final roster. I think heading into training camp, your number one guy is going to be Matt LaCosse. Matt LaCosse, of course, is also the number one guy currently on their depth chart, but Matt LaCosse didn't show anything great this past season, and he's only signed for a little over $1 million, and I don't even think he's worth that. I think we've all been saying that we wouldn't mind seeing Matt LaCosse out the door, especially because of just how injury prone this guy is. You can't rely on him, and he's not able to get separation. Essentially, there was only one or two good plays that I can truly remember him making this past season, and I just don't see him making such a huge jump last year heading into this year that makes me go, Matt LaCosse, he's going to be a guy you want to worry about, because he showed great progression through training camp last year, and he wasn't able to put that back on the field. To me, Devin Asiasi is going to be the guy that you want to watch for this upcoming training camp, just because he essentially is, in my personal opinion, the best all-around tight end that the New England Patriots currently have. He's the best threat in the receiving game the Patriots have. He's a nice big body. Now, he's not as tall as Matt Lacoste, but he's still a big body that is able to be used and utilized by any quarterback that the New England Patriots will have. Not to mention the fact that he's an upgrade over what the Patriots had when it comes to blocking tight ends this past season. Of course, also remember that Devin Asiasi has already been working out with guys like Jarrett Stidham, has already been working out with guys like Cam Newton, which we haven't really been hearing about any of the other tight ends. So while the tight end position is a complete battle, it's, in my own opinion, completely wide open, I would say the two biggest guys that I think are going to hash it out, they're going to battle it out for that number one starting tight end position is going to be between Matt Lacoste and Devin Asiasi. I'm a big fan of Ryan Izzo, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to make the jump just because of how Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels kind of plan to utilize him. As for Dalton Keene, I just don't think the Patriots know how they want to utilize him. I think that he's just going to be used in so many different places. Tight end, running back, fullback, you name it, and the Patriots are going to put Dalton Keene there. But tight end would also be a position where I wouldn't mind, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised either, to see the New England Patriots make a potential addition. I would like to see a nice veteran addition, even if it's just a training camp body. Even if it's just a guy like a Delanie Walker or Jordan Reed. But I think for this specific scenario, it's going to be the guy that is going to, number one, be able to be an all-around tight end who's able to be a good blocker and help out the run game significantly, but is also going to be able to be a reliable receiving threat for Cam Newton, Jarrett Stidham, again, whoever the quarterback might be. Tom Brady is out of the scenario, so Matt Lacoste, Ryan Izzo, they don't really have that going for them anymore. And the fact that Devin Asiasi has been working with these quarterbacks more than Matt Lacoste has been or Ryan Izzo has been, I think it's something that could really help push Devin Asiasi in training camp. Next up is probably the biggest one and the most predicted one in this entire list, and that's going to be, of course, the quarterback position. Tom Brady is officially out of here for the first time in a few decades. The New England Patriots are sitting at a point where they're not 100% sure what the quarterback situation is going to look like, who's 100% going to be the starter. Again, we are at a position where so many people are like, Cam Newton is the for sure starter. They signed Cam Newton and they let him know he's the complete starter right away. And that's not the case. I think if anyone thinks that, then they need to ask themselves, what team are they rooting for? Because if you're rooting for Bill Belichick's New England Patriots, then you would know that Belichick doesn't care about the player, doesn't care about the ability, doesn't care about the depth they have at that position. He will never come in with a player and say, you're the 100% complete starter. Especially because, let's keep in mind, Cam Newton was a free agent for a couple of months, and the New England Patriots didn't sign him for weeks and weeks after he was released by the Carolina Panthers. It's not like they jumped on him right away. Bill Belichick is going to end up doing what is best for this team at the end of the day. If Jarrett Stidham is showing more poise, more ability than we're able to see from somebody like Cam Newton, then at least to start the season, you'll see Jarrett Stidham as the Patriots starting quarterback. Now, of course, you have guys like Brian Hoyer in the mix. You have Jamar Smith, Brian Lewerke, but in my own opinion, I don't really see those guys really making an impact to put them in the situation of, hey, maybe they could be the starting quarterback. I really think it's between Jarrett Stidham at this point and Cam Newton. Some things to watch with these quarterbacks is, number one, turnovers. Which quarterback is able to take care of the ball most? Now, the great thing here is the fact that the Patriots have a top 3 defense. So the Patriots offense, the receivers, the quarterbacks, they'll be going against one of the best defenses in the league, which is going to help them out significantly and helping Bill Belichick see, okay, which quarterback is thinking the best, which is using his smarts and his knowledge the best, and who's taking care of the ball the best at the end of the day. I mean, if you have Cam Newton or even Jarrett Stidham constantly throwing picks, I mean, Bill Belichick's not going to roll with you. even if you have a better athletic upside, if you're just constantly turning over the ball and making it a point where your offense is being taken off the field 24/7 because of your turnover inconsistencies, then chances are you're not going to win the battle. And believe it or not, I think that is going to be the number one priority here for Bill Belichick, for Josh McDaniels, when really trying to evaluate who should be the starter for the New England Patriots Week 1 against the Miami Dolphins. But of course, they will also look at other aspects. Some of these aspects could be who is able to control the huddle, who is able to be the better leader at the end of the day. If you're not able to control the huddle, call good plays, switch up the cadence correctly, then you're going to have concerns by your offensive coordinator and also your head coach. But of course, something else that they're going to be evaluating with the quarterback position is going to be who is able to continuously move the chains. Who's going to put them in a position where they are not in a worry of, are we going to be able to pick up the first down? Are we going to be able to put points up on the board? I don't think Bill Belichick necessarily cares how they pick up yardage, how they get touchdowns, how they put up points on the board offensively, just as long as it happens. And the last one here that I would really say is a battle is going to be the fullback position. Now, before I get into that, guys, I do want to say that, look, everyone here competing is in some type of battle. But the guys that made this list, the positions that made this list, ultimately came down to how severe these battles actually were. Tight end, quarterback, wide receiver, fullback, these are all questionable positions where anyone could potentially make the roster and could potentially not make the roster. I feel like defensively, there are some questions slightly, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Now, technically, the New England Patriots only have two fullbacks on their roster currently. It's going to be Danny Vitale and Jakob Johnson. Now, of course, you also do want to mix in Dalton Keene in that situation. Of course, Dalton Keene makes the roster no matter what, third-round pick, super versatile. He's going to make it, but you kind of have to put him in that fullback and tight end question mark just because, look, Bill Belichick's going to try him everywhere. But to me, the biggest battle essentially does come down to Danny Vitale and Jakob Johnson. Danny Vitale is going to be more of that Kyle Juszczyk type of role that the 49ers have, and I know something that Bill Belichick would really like to use, something that I think Josh McDaniels could craft some really nice plays with. A guy that he's good at blocking. Is he as good as Jakob Johnson? I don't know about that, but we haven't seen too much from Jakob Johnson, I think, to fully be able to say. But I think the ability to be a runner, to be a pass catcher, Danny Vitale has that higher ranked than someone like a Jakob Johnson does. I think that Danny Vitale will bring aspects to the offense that will help them move the chains that we haven't really had when we had someone like James Devlin, who was really sole-purposely just a blocker and a guy that was super tough to tackle. So when you're reaching like the 5-yard line, the red zone just kind of punches the ball in. This one is super tough just because I think the Patriots are at a position where you're kind of evaluating, look, do you want a guy who is going to really help in the blocking sense, is going to help you block for your quarterback, is going to help you block for your running game and get everything open? Or do you want a guy who could really help you out in the passing game and just be a guy who is on the field and could just be another body that is another place that the quarterback could put the ball? There's nothing about either one of these guys that makes them a complete lock to make the roster, so they really are 50-50, and it's going to come down to what Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick's plan essentially is. But that is going to be it for today's video. I know this was a long one, but I really wanted to break down the camp battles that the New England Patriots will be having for training camp, which again starts in just a couple of weeks. So what are your guys' thoughts on the camp battles that I mentioned? And is there one that you personally truly feel is an actual battle that I didn't mention heading into the Patriots 2020 training camp? Let me know in the comment section below. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. This one took a good while to make. Of course, a good amount of thought and research to put into this also, so it would mean a lot to me if you guys gave this video a big thumbs up, shared the video maybe with a few different friends or family members, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for all of your New England Patriots news. But like always, thank you guys so much for watching.